Alright you lot, this video has been such a long time coming. We are finally building the chimney on the Priory. It's been months. Also, do try not to get too distracted by my t-shirt. I know it's the coolest t-shirt in the whole world. It's Fred Dibnah, demolishing the Eye of Sauron, obviously. If you don't know who Fred Dibnah is, get yourself on YouTube, which you're already on conveniently, and type in Fred Dibnah and spend one of the most enjoyable afternoons of your life watching clips of Fred Dibnah demolish chimneys. He's an absolute legend. Also, because undoubtedly someone will ask where I got my t-shirt from. It's from a company or a guy, an artist called Jimmel Paint It, who is an excellent artist and definitely worth checking out, particularly in this world of AI, where AI is taking over. Horrible AI slop artwork. We should be supporting creators and artists. Anyway, I'm just gonna step off that soapbox because we've got a chimney to build. Some of you will remember, if you've been watching my channel for a couple of months, I did a video in which I did the setting out and the template making for the chimney. So I'm going to try, I'll link that below, or maybe I'll make a playlist. I'll try and figure out how to do that. I'm still figuring out this YouTube thing. But I did film myself making the templates for the chimney, explaining to you all how the chimney had fallen down and fallen through the roof of the Priory. Not good. And then I did another video in which I showed the stone carving process and making the chimney caps, the new big kind of crenellated chimney caps for the top of the chimney. That is a second video. This is the third video and final installment in the chimney rebuilding saga. And we're going to be playing with a crane. Very exciting, because we needed to crane the stones out of the Priory yard over the roof onto the scaffold. And we're going to be doing some hot lead pouring. So I love hot works, any excuse to melt things and pour liquid lead. That is one of the most fun things to do on site. So hot works are fun. So we'll be talking about that. So without further ado, let's rebuild a chimney. Big crane day. These stones are going up there with the use of that. It's an exciting crane day. This is really exciting for us. So using a crane to get stones up onto the top of a scaffold is actually quite unusual for us. I've been here for about 8 years, maybe 9, and I think this is only the second time I've worked on a job where a crane has been needed. So usually we would have a manual hoist or an air-powered hoist or even an electric hoist built into the scaffold. But because of the position of this scaffold and the way it sits between these roof lines and kind of over the close wall, it would just be a ridiculous amount of scaffold that would be required to make it safe enough to put on a lifting beam in order to install a hoist just to lift these 2 stones. And it actually turned out to be more sensible to just get a crane for the morning and just crane them up. I should also thank the excellent crane operators for being really good sports and letting me put GoPros on their crane, hence this terrifying view. Anyway, let's speed this up a little bit, shall we? So top stonemason Craig and one of the other crane operators were actually at the top of the scaffold to guide the stones in. They then put the sling around the old chimney stone, or at least half of the old chimney capstone, in order to remove that from the roof. The other half of this chimney actually fell through the roof and has since been recovered, but we took the opportunity of having the crane there to bring the other half down. This stone is going to be recorded and labelled and will go in the lapidarium, the old stone store, for future reference. We then brought the second stone up, and just for reference, each of these 2 chimney capstones weighed 65 kilograms each, which is 10 kilograms more than me. And because I know some people will ask, this building is called the Priory. It is a real hodgepodge of time periods. It is attached to the medieval close wall, so it has a turret, like an actual medieval spirally turret going up the side of it. It has some 15th century bits and some 17th century bits and some Victorian bits, and it's just a really interesting house full of really interesting historical bits, which is owned by the cathedral and used by the cathedral, so there you go. And then it was time for the final thing to be lifted up by the crane, the chimney pot. Now, this isn't a working fire, so it is not in use, and it's going to get capped at the top, probably by us. But because we have to replace everything like for like in this historic area, the chimney that fell down had a chimney pot in it. And while the pot is probably not the same age as those capstones, those nice crenellated capstones that fell off, the pot was obviously a later addition. Because that was part of the thing that fell, we have to replace that as well. So we do replace everything like for like. Anyway, let's speed this bit up as well, shall we? And then the crane guy let me sit in his crane, and it was really exciting. Right, it's Friday. I've just hoisted these up with Big Crane. Big Crane has just left. So it's too late in the day on Friday to actually start fixing. We're going to save that tree till Monday, but we're just going to come and give it a good long hard looking at. Because I think, are we cramping these together? So I think they're going to get cramped. There's going to be something going on here. And then these things go on there. So here's the plan. See if you can see me. Shadow in the way. Here's the plan. We've got some steel bar that we've bent, so that kind of goes into these holes. We're going to cut a groove with the grinder real quick so that these steel cramps are kind of flush with the stone. We're going to do another one over there, and then we're going to cut some holes and make a little groove opposite ends here so we can put some steel across there, and that'll cramp the whole thing together, and then we can put the chimney caps on top. That's the plan. Okay, this is where we're at. Last thing on a Friday. So we've put some threaded bar that we've bent over into cramps in there. That's pretty solid. We've got some of this flat metal. What is it? Steel? Is it steel? I should know, shouldn't I? Some like steel, flat stuff here. Oh, the bells. The bells always go off when I'm talking. We've got, these crisscross ones on here. We've got a cramp over there and a cramp over here. And because people are going to ask me, are we going to lead them in and we're going to pour some glue in and we're going to do something like that? We're not. There's no point because we've got two big heavy stones to sit on top of them. They're just to stop these bottom stones from spreading. So obviously they go down. We've drilled down into these stones and they're not going to lift out because they're going to have two stones on top that weigh, how much did they weigh? 65 kilograms each. So like they don't look that big. Doesn't look that big, now it's up here, but that is 10 kilograms more than me, that stone. Almost as much as Craig. One more final thing to do before we can actually fix these stones is to cut the joggles. Now joggles are just V-cut channels in these perp joints, so where the two stones join together in those perpendicular joints, if that makes sense, we will cut these two upside down Y-shaped channels, and this will match the joint on the opposite side, and then when we fit them together we can put clay in the joints and pour the molten lead in, and the molten lead will fill this channel and lock those stones together. And if you watch till the end of the video you will see us doing that and all will become clear. This is top tip for cutting slates if you don't have, is it an axe, a slate axe that roofers use? Something like that, isn't it? They have like a choppy thing for cutting slates. Big sharp trowel does exactly the same thing. Chop, chop, chop. As demonstrated by Craig. Right, I keep forgetting to film stuff because I am just like cracking on because we do actually want to get this done. So it's break time. I'm going to talk you through the mix that we're making. This is our mixing area. So as I've said in the past, we only use hot lime mortar on the cathedral. However, very, very rarely when we work on one of the properties on the cathedral estate, not the cathedral itself, but a cathedral property, if we're doing something very high up that is very exposed to a lot of weather and we need to get like a hard initial set, we don't have time to be going up and tending to it like you do with hot lime, we will use an NHL mortar, which is a natural hydraulic lime. We're probably going to use an NHL 3.5. Craig's just run off to the coach house to grab a bag because we have a secret stash of NHL. So that is what we're going to use. I'll film the mixing process, though it's not very exciting. It's literally just bit of Sharpie, bit of Softie, bit of NHL, one heaped bucket of water until it represents a sort of wet sand situation. I hate using NHL because it just doesn't feel sticky, it doesn't feel alive. People that use hot lime mortar regularly and then have to use a batch of NHL as a one-off, it's totally different. The mortar feels dead. That's the only way I can explain it. Hot lime is like, it's active and it's sticky and it's spongy, whereas NHL, it just feels like wet sand. It just feels sloppy. It feels like it's not sticking to anything, even though you get that like harder initial set. It means we can kind of fix it today and it'll be set by like this afternoon probably, considering what the weather is doing right now. So, oh, the buses are so loud. So anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing. Any questions about NHL? Right, wetting this down. And then it was time to finally fix these stones. So we put some slates around the edge to give the chimney pot something to sit on. And we did leave a gap in the middle just for airflow, because the chimney, it's not in use, but you still need to have some airflow. And then there will be a sort of cap on top of the chimney pot as well to stop birds and bugs and stuff getting in. And before people ask, we didn't replace the whole chimney, which is why the stones underneath look so weathered and a bit dirty and completely different to the stones that are going on, because the stones that are going on are brand new and they've been in the workshop and they are nice and clean. The stones underneath are a few hundred years old and are not clean, but give it a few months and these stones will dirty up nicely. All right, team, this is where we're at. We put some slates down to bed it on, so that gives some support for the chimney pot, which needs to go in. We have left a bit of a gap for ventilation, apparently. That's what that's for. Even though it's not a usable chimney, we still have to leave a little bit of ventilation. And we've obviously got the big chimney pot to sit in the middle and it needs flaunching around the edge, but essentially it's in. So the next thing to do is we're going to put the chimney pot in the middle and flaunch it. And then that's all we can do for today, because the very next thing to do is we have to pack these perp joints with clay and then pour molten lead into the joggle. So that one, annoyingly, doesn't quite line up, but it doesn't matter because it still connects, but this one lines up a bit better. So essentially what needs to happen is the perp joint gets filled with clay to stop the lead running out, obviously, and then we pour liquid molten lead in here, and you can see there's a kind of V-cut there and a V-cut there. So there are two matching joggles that run all the way through that perp joint, sort of Y-shaped joggles. And then we've got these little like joggles here. That'll all fill with lead. That locks both of the stones together, both down the joint and in the top. And then once the lead has set, we can take the clay out and point up the joint with mortar, and then that'll be it. But we cannot do hot works, so all we can do for the rest of today is put the chimney pot in and kind of flaunch the sides with mortar. We can't do the lead work today because it is now gone 12 o'clock and we're only allowed to do hot works that involves fire before 12, because there has to be like regular checks, so it stops people from doing hot works at like 3 o'clock and then going home at 4, and then there's no time for someone to come up and like run like fire checks. So we do the hot works from 8 a.m. till 12, and then a couple of times after 12, like towards the end of the day, someone will come up like every hour just to do like a check. So that's the plan for tomorrow. So first thing tomorrow morning, we're gonna pester the cathedral lead worker, get a bucket full of lead, a little furnace and a big ladle, and we're gonna come up here and do our hot works. So, right, let's get this chimney pot in, shall we? And then the chimney pot goes in because, as I previously mentioned, there was a chimney pot in it when it fell down, so a chimney pot now has to go back in it now that we're building it. And isn't that view of the cathedral amazing, by the way? How lucky are we? So we need to know if this looks straight from the ground. So Craig is currently on the phone to the apprentice and he's making the apprentice stand on the other side of the road. Right, we're relying on Cameron to tell us if the chimney looks straight or not. Anybody who wants to know what flaunching is, we've got some lovely examples over here. So see the mortar on those chimneys, where at the bottom of the chimney pots, where it meets the actual brickwork, all that white looking mortar sloping down so that the rain runs off it and doesn't gather. That is flaunching. So there you go. What a handy example to have at hand. See this trowel? This is the best flaunching trowel. I don't care what anyone says, Craig. The little spoon, little flaunching trowel. Pretty perfect, that. Okay team, this is where we are at. Chimney pot in, weird plastic cap. Don't know how I feel about the plastic cap, that might come off. We flaunched it, so obviously no water will get trapped, it'll all sort of run off. This is, before someone says that the chimney pot looks silly, this is exactly how it was before it fell down, and we do have to replace everything like for like. And weirdly, I think because this stonework is a bit wonky, it's like tricking my eyes into thinking that's a bit wonky. But we have had the levels on and it is level. But we just need the roofer to come up and fix the roof now. Oh dear. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. So we will continue this tomorrow morning, which through the magic of editing will happen right now. All right, next morning. We wrapped it up in some damp hessian, which is now bone dry, overnight in the hopes that that flaunching wouldn't crack and turn white. So we're going to unwrap it now and see what it looks like. And obviously it's going to look perfect. And then we're going to cook some lead. All right, flaunching isn't too bad. It's a little bit receded, but we can touch that up. So actually, that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Now we've just got to put some clay in the perp joints. Ready for the lead. Right, so I obviously can't talk to the camera while we are doing our lead works because of the mask that I'm wearing with my fume filters, because this is obviously lead. So let's do a voiceover, shall we? So we have to remove all of the scuzz, all of the nasty stuff from the top of the lead once it's melted. And this is such a cool little contained furnace, which means there is no open flame at all. And then after heating up the ladle so the lead doesn't stick to the ladle, we just pour the lead, which just, it runs so fast. I think because it's metal, it kind of tricks you into thinking it will be quite thick and gloopy and not very viscous, but actually it is like pouring water. It is so runny. If you've never worked with molten lead before, it is such a cool substance and is so fun to work with. And it doesn't damage the stone at all. It causes absolutely no damage. And even if some of it spills slightly and lands on the stone, it just instantly sets. You just pick it straight off and put it back in the pot. And it doesn't leave a mark. It doesn't damage it at all. All right, that's it. Chimney done. Calling it. Lead work happened. Yeah, we're just gonna, there's a little bit of pointing to like knock back when it goes off. Lovely bit of lead work. Bit of flaunching. Nice. Happy Craig? Yeah, he's ecstatic, yeah. Right, let's go back in there. Right, that was the chimney. I hope some of that was interesting and insightful and made sense. As always, if anyone has any questions, put them in the comments. I do read all of the comments and I do try and answer all of your questions. Last week I posted a Q&A video, my second Q&A video, because I get such a lot of questions, which is amazing. Like, I love that you guys watch my videos and have follow-up questions and interact. That's just brilliant. Really makes my day reading all of your comments and questions. So I do make a note of all of the questions I am asked. So pop them in the comments below. I will make notes, and then in a couple of months I will do another Q&A video answering all of your questions if I don't answer them in the comments. I think by the time I will have done this video, I will have been to Super Trowel, and which is the National Bricklaying Championships. That's a real thing. I'm going to try and make a video about that, I think. So I imagine next week's video will probably be me at Super Trowel, showing you guys what I get up to there, showing you the Bricklaying Championships, showing you all the fun and games of Super Trowel. We are back in the workshop after building the chimney, working our way through the final round of stones to be worked for the chapter house phase of works. And then hopefully in a few weeks, me and my colleagues will be on site actually starting the fixing work, starting the building work on the chapter house. So there'll be a few more videos in the workshop and then eventually lots of videos on site, doing exciting things with flying buttresses and pinnacles and tracery panels and copings and all sorts of fun stuff. Oh, I had a couple of questions on previous videos when I mentioned the fact that the cathedral is a charity and relies entirely on charitable donations in order to do the restoration and conservation work. People asked if there was a link where they can donate. So there is on the cathedral's website. If you go to lincolncathedral.co.uk, just Google Lincoln Cathedral. If you go on the website, there is a whole fundraising section. You can do exciting things like sponsor a stained glass window, or sponsor an organ pipe, I think, or sponsor a book in the library, and kind of sponsor a stone for the stonemasons to install. So yeah, I will put a link to the cathedral's fundraising section of their website in the description. So do check that out, because like I said in my previous video, none of the cathedrals in the UK receive any regular funding from the government or the Church of England for the conservation of the fabric of the building, and they rely entirely on charitable donations. So people coming to visit the cathedral, paying for their entrance fee, paying for a tour, or making a donation. So we are always extremely grateful for that, because it helps keep this beautiful building standing for future generations to enjoy. Right, finally, if you would like to like and subscribe, I would be ever so grateful, but you don't have to if you don't want to, that's cool too. Okay, it is 7:15 on a Monday morning. It's sunny. I need to put on at least 8 more layers of sunblock before I go outside. Let's go to work.